welcome back to another episode of the Just Jamie podcast with me, Jamie DeVault, and Zack. So we are, if you're new, a sort of magazine style lifestyle show, and we kind of hop around to a lot of interesting topics, or at least they're interesting to me, and I force Zack to be interested in them. But we kind of hop around, and today's episode actually is kind of crowdsourced, and people wanted to know what it is I do for a living besides owning my own business as a liquidation consultant. What does that mean? What the heck is liquidation? And why are consultants even necessary? So I will try to make this interesting and fun, but it really is fascinating. And I always say, do not forget that going out of business is absolutely a business. It is a couple $1 trillion a year business. So distressed retailers, they may be in trouble, but there's about 4 or 5 companies globally that do what we do, what I do, working for the company. They're based out in California. And I'm going to kind of walk you through the different types of liquidation. And if I'm about to put you to sleep, Zack will come in and wake everybody up. So, okay. First, you've got your partial liquidations. You're probably familiar with those with companies like a Macy's, for example, that they close some locations and not all of them. So it could be because 70 years ago or 50 years ago, this side of town was great and they built a great mall over there. They've got a great new lease. So they just want to close XYZ location. And then you'll bring in a company like us, and we are kind of mercenaries, maybe Grim Reapers. We come in, and I prefer the Mariano Rivera analogy, even though I am a Mets fan. He was damn good at what he did. He came, he shut things down. He was excellent at it, and he was a specialist. So I like to think of us in that regard, but you guys think whatever you want. So then you've got your complete, which is a company, lock, stock, and barrel, is closing everything. They're e-commerce, they're closing their brick and mortar, they're closing their warehouses, they are selling buildings, any sort of trucks or automobiles. So that's another kind. Then you've got your voluntary, which is kind of similar to the partial, where, hey, we need to close this either entirely or partially, and it's on us that we started it, we own the business, and you want to close it on your own because either you want to retire or something like that. Then you've got your compulsory. That means the government is all sorts of mad at you. Your creditors are mad at you. You can no longer keep your head above water, and you are being forced into liquidation. That's generally where my company comes in and our competitors. So a company will file, and then my company and alike start bidding like crazy on the job. And you have to, there's a couple different kinds of deals, and we'll get into that in a minute, but it goes through the federal court system, and then the bid is awarded to a company. Now the games can begin. So there's 2 different kinds. So you've got your fee deal and your equity deal. Fee deals are basically like the job I'm working on now. A client has come to us saying that we need to close all of these stores. We don't really have the bandwidth to do it, and we are bringing you on. They remain the client, and we advise. And then you have an equity deal where my company and or competitors buy the distressed retailer. We manage the process in their brick and mortar stores, in their warehouse, et cetera, and we take control of the project, meaning we can sort of be the lead dog, if you will. We don't really have to ask. There's no client involved, and that we kind of control the narrative.
Do you find that the 3 different types of liquidation and then the 2 different deals, are people like more receptive or harder to work with? Like, in one particular one, like if you get a certain type of liquidation, you're like, oh, this was going to be a doozy? Or does it really just depend on the client?
Yes, and sure.
Okay.
So if you had asked me this 6 months ago, I may have had a different answer. But the deal we're on, and I'm not going to mention any company names, because even though a lot of this is public, I am not sure what I can and cannot say. But we are dealing with a company now, and we are on a fee deal, meaning the good thing is my bonus is guaranteed. Our fees are guaranteed. So check that box, because bonuses are not always guaranteed. However, they are in control. So the company is going out of business. The CEO is still there, which is rare. Usually they are jettisoned out before we kind of get there. He is also getting a golden parachute. It's very well publicized how many millions of dollars he's getting as part of this. And he is also making it difficult for us to do the very thing that we were hired to do, because kind of he needs to have his hands in everything because, again, I like to control things as well, but if you've partnered with us, then you should probably take our advice. So all that to say, if you have someone so involved like this, it kind of hamstrings us and we're not able to maybe get the full return, which then impacts the bonus and the overall profitability of the deal. Whereas when we own it and we can call the shots, it's all on us. And not every deal is profitable, but most are. And we're just able to kind of control our own destiny a little more without kind of running it up the flagpole and lots of additional steps, and time is money. So
too many cooks in the kitchen. So
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's sort of, the component. So my phone will ring and it will be the person in charge of coordinating the project, and they'll say, are you in or out? Now, basically, you're saying yes to working for the next foreseeable future, 7 days a week, minimum of 3 months. If it's a shorter deal, they'll let you know generally in that first inquiry. And you don't know who the client is. You don't know if we've bought it. You don't know if it's fee deal or equity deal. So that's the thing. You don't even know if it's the one you're rooting for when you say yes. And you also don't know what part of the country and or the world you're going to be in. If it requires a passport, they will obviously let you know before you have the option to agree or disagree, because what if we just finished a deal in Germany? If you don't have a passport, you can't play. So once you say you're in, then there's generally a startup call. This is probably on a Tuesday. About 9 o'clock that night, you will find out who the client is, what the product is, how many stores you're going to have. So my very first project was an insanely giant department store. My second project was from hell, if I can say, and I had 14 locations, and every store was more horrific than the other, and that was a nightmare. But I didn't know that, and kind of, I guess you could always opt out, but as a consultant and a freelancer, if you opt out when it gets hard or when you think it might be hard, they're going to stop calling. So once you find out, it's super confidential. You can't tell really your friends, your family, anyone, because if people own stock, we have to sign non-disclosures sometimes. So it's very sort of tricky. And then you find out what area you're going in, and then you're off to the races. You have about 48 hours to get there. So as much as I am 100% responsible for all of my fees and expenses, the getting to the deal is largely covered by the company. That's the while I'm on the deal is on me, but the getting to and from. So if I have to fly, my company pays for it, which is nice. They also offer advances if we need it, and then they'll take it back, because you never know people's financial circumstance. So I get where I'm going. And when we were talking about on the safety podcast a couple episodes back, and we can link it below, that when you're planning a vacation and you're keeping health and safety and money in mind and fun, you get to scout where you want to stay. Often here, I don't have any advance notice, so I don't know if I'm going into an area that is maybe a little unsavory and I need to stay a half hour out. So that first 48 hours when I get to where I am going, not only am I trying to execute the plan, and I'll tell you about that in a minute, but I'm also trying to figure out, do I sign a long-term lease with a VRBO? Do I book a hotel for a month at a time? Do I do a couple nights here or there and figure out, I'm glad I didn't stay over there because that's kind of sketchy. So there's a lot of that going on. And then I'm also trying to plan my food and everything and try to stay on my health and wellness. So all that's going on in my little pea brain at the time. So when you get where you're going, generally the staff, the employees get very little to no notice. That's the hardest part. And if people are mean to me, I always try to keep it in mind. And this happened to me years ago, but they are knocked through a loop. Maybe it's been in the newspaper. I'm sure everyone who's watching this heard about Bed Bath & Beyond. That project, I think, lasted about 5 years. So a lot of stores, I heard we were in trouble. I'm not sure. My store's closing, not closing. Then COVID happened. And it was sort of this long, prolonged situation where other companies may not even see it coming. They will find out on a Thursday, sometimes a Friday morning. I've also had it where they go to get a UPS package. It's their going out of business signage, and they haven't even been told yet. So you can only imagine I'm walking into a hostile environment. They don't want me there. They don't want to be losing their jobs. And it's tough because we have to get the messaging out to the public ASAP because time is money and going out of business is a business, and it is unacceptable from my company's perspective for that to be a slow rollout. So we have to, every day is back to school, every day is Christmas, like we are on the clock immediately. And a lot of times we do have to upload photos to satisfy the client or my company to let them know benchmarks are being hit. So you really have to kind of hit the ground running while also trying to have some empathy for the staff. If you are walking into a department store, there could be 75 to 100 employees, and you've got to navigate the ones who want to cry and tell you everything, and then the people who are plotting your demise. And then if you're going to multiple stores, you want to seem like you're empathetic, but you got to hit the road in 5 minutes because you have 2-hour drive to your next location. So my plight is not their problem, but it's a hard balance.
Yeah, that it's like a tough dynamic of what your end goal is.
Yeah.
That would be hard to manage for sure from an outsider.
100%, because I'm there to make the maximum amount of money for my company. And the people who are losing their job, their PTO, their vacation, and their benefits don't want to hear about that. Then, to make matters worse, I can only do my job if they do their job. So I never have keys to the store. I never touch money. I oftentimes try to help them with some of their computer skills, even though I don't work for the company. Somehow I always get kind of stuck behind there. But I need them to execute at full capacity for a company that does not want them. They may not get any retention bonus whatsoever. And I need them to click on all cylinders as if they are up for a promotion. And that's, like you said, crazy dynamic. And a lot of it is first impressions. And they gave me a very nice compliment at the store, not just because I bought them pizza. They said it before, that they thought it was, what did they say? I was going to be a bitchy witch, and they were dreading having a consultant. And they said, they're like, and we have an angel from God, and went like this with their hands. I was like, it was such a sweet thing to say, but I can only imagine they get this terrible news. Now there's this interloper that's going to take over. So when I met the store manager, he was afraid I was going to usurp his power. Then they kept the district managers, which is rare. So then they were worried I was going to step on their toes. So now I've got the dynamic at the store. I need them still to kind of function. Then the hierarchy is, if I can say, pissed I'm there. I'm going to Bigfoot all over them, and they're going to have, none of their sort of right to kind of govern and discern and make decisions. And the dynamic and the power dynamic is all off. Then you've got all of those things, and it's still Friday, and I still have to get it done. And clients, so now the gate goes up if you're in a mall, or I've unlocked the doors at this giant department store. It's hit the news, the public walks in. When's your last day? They have no sense of self. They have no sense of empathy that the person they just asked got this horrific news, and they want to know when their last day is. We don't know. We just found out. And even if I did know, it's none of your beeswax. Then they want to know, what do you mean it's only 25% off? You guys were 30% off last week. So if I can back up, and hopefully I'm not too boring, a lot of stores are very promotional, right? So if you're a fan of Banana Republic, Macy's, fill in the blank here, even if it's, Lowe's, Dick's Sporting Goods, whatever, they send you emails, valued client, VIP this, VIP that. And a lot of times that first, all the sales go away during liquidation, like your regular promo sales, your gold star days, it's a Wednesday, it ends at a Y, extra 50% off, use your credit card bonus savings, all that goes away. So unfortunately, the brick and mortar retailer has been really indoctrinated to not pay full price for anything ever. So when we come in, it's usually a 25 to 40% off spread throughout the store, but maybe that store has been 30 off for the last 10 years. And the client is very angry. They're talking to the person who just found out they were losing their job. They mark the prices up just to mark them down. So it's kind of, I don't know, am I allowed to say shit show? So it's a shit show right away, first thing, while I'm still trying to navigate and get, sort of the program moving, because again, millions of dollars are at stake. So that's kind of the dynamic from my side. Not that I want a pity party, But just to let you guys know, and that for me, I know what I signed up for. But the poor associate manager, sometimes they've been there 25 years, that their whole, career just got this horrible news. I know what I signed up for. They didn't see this coming. So
yeah, and you're fighting like, I've been here for 25 years, and this stranger's going to walk in and tell me how to do this and how to do that, and she thinks she knows what's best. So you're like already starting behind the eight ball just from the nature of the job.
And then the almost flip side is, F it, I'm done. You need me to unlock? They kind of do the sit back and they're like, you guys handle it. And then they tap out and they're only there to collect a paycheck. They will not get in your way, but because they're completely apathetic, they're also not going to help you at all. So yes, it's great that I can start kind of managing, but they're in no way going to help. And so their sort of negative attitude comes into play. So I was spoiled by that first department store that I was telling you guys about up in Buffalo. They were a class act from day one to the last day. I was at the morning huddle. We were part of everything. It was a true team. They were a class act. That goes to Beth, the store manager. I mean, like really an amazing group of people. And then when I went to that other multiple store, 14 of them, it was as if someone's like, oh, all right, you had a good first experience. I'm going to give you, they were hiding things in the rafters. They were robbing blind. I mean, it was literally a nightmare. So, okay, I get through the first couple of days. Then they want to know, why should I stay? You need me to run this place. Is there a retention bonus? If so, how much am I getting? So sometimes their company gives them a bonus, a retention bonus to stay on, and then sometimes my company does. It's often pittance. It's nothing fantastic, but it's better than nothing. And sometimes my company will pay out over $1 million in retention bonuses, but it's hundreds of dollars to thousands of associates, if that makes sense, where it's a sign of good faith by my company. We don't have to do it, but obviously we want buy-in. So then when I'm going over that and they're expecting multiple zeros at the end, and it's sometimes hundreds or a few $1,000s to stay for a 4-month process, they have to weigh that for themselves. Do they go interview? Do they start taking their vacation time or what have you? So it's complex to begin with. And this is literally day one. Then you find out, okay, they're going to start emptying the warehouse. So now you are going to get more shipments than you have ever had. Normally you lose some attrition. The staff starts leaving and or their productivity, has gone in the toilet, and you are getting slammed with freight. And the website decides to run concurrent sales, but something different. And by the way, I forgot, no more returns. Everything is final. And then you will no doubt have somebody drag something back that they bought the week before, or they want a price adjustment. And that's what the team is dealing with day in and day out, the fun exceptions to it all. So after we sort of set that in stone and we have the all sales final, we've put up sort of this messaging. They're getting tons and tons and tons of freight. So the public is excited, right, that there's all this new freight, deals to be had. Then they want to know, when's the next price change? I can tell you from the inside perspective, generally it's once a week. But let's say we're in a department store and I want footwear to go on a deeper discount. Well, don't forget, it's a business. If they're making money at a lower percent off, they will not, there's no impetus for my company to change the discount just because you would like your Jimmy Choos at a better rate, or your Stan Smith, whatever shoe you're eyeing up. They might change men's activewear 10%. So then the client starts either shopping every single day. They get hip to the fact that we do price changes on Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, but then they're annoyed that it's not the entire store. So you're kind of navigating, once you get your bearings a little bit, now people are from the public telling you how they would like it to go. So then doing a price change is also a huge undertaking because there's sometimes millions of SKUs in a building. And if the price is uncertain for the client or I love the public, don't get me wrong, I've made my living in retail. Sometimes they're lazy and they're like, how much is this? Price check this, price check that. Well, now you can imagine when you've tried to buy something in a department store in the best of times, now you ratchet up 30% more foot traffic, 30% less staff, and a price check because now no one can do math. All of a sudden, the calculator that's on everyone's cell phone, no one knows how to do it. So that's kind of at play. And then people want fixtures, mannequins. They want to buy this microphone. When can I get it? I want the ladder in the back room. And we do sell all fixtures. So why do we sell fixtures? It's hundreds of millions of dollars of ladders in the buildings. It's the utility carts. It's the chair in the office. So that's sort of the interesting side of things. But again, that's another pull on certainly me in the field, but also to the staff. And we have to price all the fixtures. So all that's going on. And then you have something called Augment product that comes in. What the heck is Augment? Why does it matter? Who cares? So if we want to augment a liquidation, we have to get approval through the courts. Then we have to put up very cold signage saying this sale has been augmented. It has to have specific tags because this is not intrinsic inventory that was part of the store brand that we're closing. We've brought in something else. It might be a brand like Hanes that you know that we got as a closeout deal. It could be made for us, but Augment comes in, so we have to let people know. And why would we even do that? Because enough with the freight already. Well, once a lot of the goods are sold down, your stores start looking empty. So if I'm pulling up from a roadside or in a mall and I kind of do one of these, I'm like, they got nothing left. There goes my foot traffic. Well, as a company who owns this inventory, I need to drive traffic. And if my regular client has gotten hip to the fact that all the maybe good stuff is gone, I need to go woo another client who's never stepped foot in here. That's where Augment comes in and different advertising strategies. So the Augment is really meant to fill in the gaps, fill in the blanks, and make it a complement to the goods. So if anyone did shop that Bed Bath & Beyond, you'd bring in yoga pants, yoga mats, and some other things, because even though they didn't necessarily carry that stuff, it assimilated into the product assortment pretty well. Babies R Us, Toys R Us, all those things. Maybe we buy a closeout toy that's not a name brand, but it helps fill in the blanks. And especially if you're looking at price points, we have lots of high, we have lots of low. My company can go after that middle and fill in because again, it's sort of like baseball with the analytics has taken over and there's a numbers geek telling you lefty righty matchup. Believe me, there's someone in my company and our competitors doing the exact same thing, saying, hey, soft lines has a better margin, so we're going to go after this, that, or the other. Am I good? Are you still awake?
No,
okay.
I'm locked in. So my general takeaway is you're set in to do a job, and that is to get as much money as you possibly can out of the sale of the company, whether it's the full thing or some of the different variations that you talked about.
Yep.
But the main I would want to say hurdle of the day-to-day is balancing. You need everyone to work just a little bit harder because things are changing with kind of getting the job done, right? Like you're balancing people's emotions and how it affect their lives, but you don't need them to check out because then no one can get their job done. And so like for me, it sounds like I hope you're compensated well because it sounds difficult. It sounds difficult.
Yeah, and I'll share, like they always ask, oh, you guys must make a fortune. We're well paid. However, like I said, it's 7 days a week for a prolonged period of time. And we are 100% responsible for our hotel, our rental car, all of the things. So if I want to stay at the Ritz-Carlton, great. If I want to sleep in my car, fine. So they pay us decently up front, but then there's lots of line items that we're subtracting. And when you factor in 7 days, again, I know what I signed up for and it allows me freedom to do this and see my mom and go on vacations, but they do own your soul. While you are on a project, having a life outside is, not that it can't be done. I think I'm doing it pretty well, actually. But it's taken...
Because if I was... And not to cut you off.
Yeah, no, please.
Because like if I was your boss's boss, right? Like if I owned the company that you worked for, the people that I would want in the trenches, so to speak, would have to be over-the-top bubbly, nice, good manners, because that's the only, at least in my eyes, the only chance it has to do well is if it's like the end goal and the personality that they can't like meet because then nothing will get done. Do you follow?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've met some of my colleagues, and I think maybe they should have retired, or maybe they were a little more friendly and they're just about the machine. And the way I try to approach it, it's definitely two-pronged. First of all, it happened to me 20-something years ago, and my consultant, I still remember his name, Kevin. He was so nice. I don't remember really seeing him a ton, but he let us do the thing. We were making them so much money. He was like, you guys are awesome. Keep it up. And so I remember he gave us sort of the dignity as we were closing. And you do have to work like it is showtime, like you're up for a promotion while losing your job, which is a weird dynamic. But I always say, and other people can vouch for this, is that district managers, regional managers, director of stores, all the things I was prior to going into this business, you shop other stores, you comp shop, you're always looking for talent. And I assure you, if you run an excellent building while you are closing, you are generally always recruited. And most of the time you will make more money and you will be happier with the next step. No one really wants to hear that, but I do remind them. So if I'm doing a store visit, and I'm visiting XYZ store, and maybe I'm putting that manager on written notice. It's a bit of a train wreck over there. It's awful. And then I pop over to the store that's closing. Maybe I'm looking for talent, or maybe on my lunch break, I want to shop. And I see a store that's well run, happy staff, everything signed, it's cooking. I was like, so my guy who's not losing his job barely can meet our measurables. And this person, I know what they're going through, and the store is running really well. They always get recruited.
Yeah.
The stores that are a wreck, they were a wreck before. Talent is talent is talent. Sure. So I think it's like, if you make the decision to stay, whether it's a sign-on bonus or not, that makes you want to stay. If you stay, to me, it's my name on it. So my market, my region, like I had 8 stores. I closed a bunch. Now I'm down to 4 or 5. That I'm sort of a class act when I walk in. I will impart. They will know I'm team them, but it can't get in the way of doing my job. And once they know, being mean to me isn't going to make it go away. And I always say, I was like, I still have to come around. So we can either have fun and be a team through this, or you can make it completely miserable. But guess what's happening? This. Guess who's here? Me.
Yeah, and I'd be willing to bet, just because we know each other pretty well now, that like I know at the tip top of your company, it's numbers and graphs and charts, but you have to balance that with you're talking to human beings. You're talking to people who've been working there for 25 years. So, you have to balance, yes, we want the most out of it, yet I'm still dealing with someone who's thinking, oh my gosh, the holidays are coming up. This is the worst time. So it's like it has to be a curated like personality skill in order to do both things at the same time.
And I didn't even know I'd be good at it, to be perfectly honest with you, because I never went looking for this. But I feel like I am sort of maybe uniquely qualified, that it happened to me. And, I've said it a million times that I'm a different person post losing my dad. And I don't think I could have done this either at all or well prior to that, because I really took a lot in. I did not shake it off. I took it home with me. I lived it. I breathed it. Like a negative interaction would really define me. And now I don't want to say it doesn't bother me if people are outwardly mean to me, but I shake it off in a way, because this is finite. And if we stay in touch, great. But this is happening regardless, whether you're kind or cruel. And I try to give you respect. And if they don't, I'm like, I don't know how I got where I am, but I am here.
It's like, I didn't sell your company. Like,
right. And
I didn't, it's like, it's not, it can be done a smooth way or not, but like, it's not. I didn't run this into the ditch, but I'm here. And again, I can help you get recruited. I can answer your questions. I've helped people with their resume. I've been a reference for people, and I knew it was going to be a slam dunk and they'd be hired, because I was like, listen, if they could do this during this mayhem, they will kill it for you, because it's normal where you are. So that's sort of it in a nutshell. And then I'll wrap it up with saying, usually they are 3 to 4 month processes. So we eventually get to 95% off. This is the goods. See, I made you wait until the end of the episode.
So yes, will the discounts get better? Yes, they will. Will the stuff be there that was there on day one? No, it won't. So you have to decide for yourself. If it's a jewelry store and you've been eyeing that watch, it's not going to be there on the last day. It's a furniture store and you want that sofa, that chair, that lamp. Like, you've got to come up with your head, what is that point where you're like, oh, now it's a deal. So at the end, it will get to 95% off retail. I have also sold things at 99.9% off retail. And we get what's called an end buyer, and I can kind of touch on that. It's somebody who comes in and we make them a deal, $50 for everything in the store, but you must take it all, because a lot of times we have to sell to the piece, and we need to clear everything out off the books, as it were, and it has to be rung through the register. And one time I sold 1,400 pairs of jeans for $14. And a woman bought it. She was sending it where she does missionary work, and the client gets a full write-off at full retail.
Nice.
So that's kind of how the deals happen. Now, when it goes 95, again, it's not the North Face jacket that was on the rack on day one. So you've got to it's a bit of the art of the deal. It's a bit of the art of the chase. So if you get your adrenaline, it's the people for home goods, right? That they're tracking down that one vase or that one set of candles, and they'll go to 9 home goods for the thrill of the chase. So if that's what you got, you need some metal, you need some kind of stones to survive liquidation as a customer and employee and a liquidator. But, it will eventually sell out, but you have to kind of figure out when you're going to make the decision to buy.
Yeah. What an interesting... Because, we talked a little bit before this episode, and it's like, I was just like,
what does she do?
I don't really know what you do.
I don't think my mom knows what I do.
It's an interesting dynamic, and it's one of those things that it's going to be done, and, you can make the process smoother. You can't, but it's gonna happen. So thanks for kind of pulling back the curtain for
me. And if anybody wants more info or anything else, because I'm convinced that, if I'm able to give a little bit of a deal of who, what, where, when, if something is coming up, I'd like to do that. So I think it might be fun. Comment below if you're wanting to know where the deals are. So
cool. Well, thanks.
Yeah. Well, thanks, guys. See ya.